Hey loves, it's Savannah, and today's video is going to be a part 2 to reading the scariest creepypastas. So yeah, we're going to do a different video, idea soon, I promise you, but we're just like incompetent and don't know how to do anything, so yeah. Alright, what's this one called?
The first one is when... Oh, sorry. I'm dyslexic. You gotta know this. He comes closer when I blink. You can start again. Like the first one.
Ooh, chilly. Okay.
Right.
Father O'Brien.
Shit.
You've asked me to keep a journal, and here it is. It seems that relocating to Maryland was a waste. Moving from one house to another doesn't seem to stop anything, and the police are at a loss. If you're unable to help us, the easiest path forward is just to give up hope. Hope hurts too much if there's no faith to lift its wings. That was deep.
Day 1. Our first night on Hill Street did not offer any peace. The constant ticking of the clock was audible from every room in the house. We don't own a clock. Oh! They don't own a clock. Day 2. This one's already scarier.
Day 2. Georgia, 5 years old and our youngest, smiled and handed me a piece of paper. I drew a picture, Daddy, she offered with an impish grin.
Impish? Is that the right word?
Yeah, I wish I knew what that meant.
Impish?
I took it from her to inspect it.
I'm scared.
The page was blank. Like my heart. Georgia, my sweet little... What?
That's what she is to him?
Georgia, my little sweet tea. This page is blank, I explained softly. Her face grew red. She stamped her feet. It's not blank, Daddy. It's a picture of our family. Put it on the fridge. Georgia almost never yells, so this concerned me greatly. But that paled in comparison to what I felt when I looked down at her and saw that she had no eyes. Fuck no. I should say, rather, that the whites of her eyes were in place, but nothing more. Her pupils and irises were gone. Only livid, veiny tendrils of red crisscrossed the alabaster surface. I wish I pronounced that right. Georgia did not seem to notice they were gone. She grew louder and continued to yell. I slammed the paper onto the surface of the refrigerator and shakily affixed a magnet to it. When I looked back at my daughter, her eyes had returned. She was smiling. Thank you, Daddy, she chirped before skipping down the hall.
No.
I hate children who are possessed.
Me. Gross. Day 3. I had gotten out of bed in the middle of the night for a glass of water. Can't relate. I can't explain it perfectly, but humans do have a certain amount of echolocation. It's echolocation at their disposal. Something about the way our house sounded was off. I stepped into the darkened living room with the hopes of elevating my fear. But the discomfort only grew. I fumbled for the light switch and flicked it on. My eyes are like gone. Cut off. Dismissed. Cancelled.
Flew. Wig flew. Eyebrows flew. Hated that.
Eyes flew, literally. Because the story. I can't go anymore. My leg. Oh no. Yep, these are my legs, guys. These are my legs.
Whew. Okay. Day 4. The locusts are bad this year. Every garden on the block has wilted except for ours. We planted tulips, but only snowdrops are growing. I have to mow the lawn twice a day to keep it from getting overrun.
I just took your coffee, by the way. Day 5. A box arrived in the mail today. It had my name on it, written in child's handwriting. See? No. There was no return address. Inside the box were 1,913 human teeth. Teeth! 1,000. How many other? Day 6.
Day 6.
Bitch, my coffee scared me through the window.
The refrigerator is now completely covered with drawings that Georgia has given me. Every single one of them is blank. Love that.
Peasant. I get up. I get up before the rest of the family every day to inspect the house. The interior was fine this morning, though I did avoid the living room light. I no longer look in that room before dawn. There were footsteps outside the door. The prints formed a long, muddy trail from the street. No. They appear to come from a man's shoe.
See?
No. This one's creepy.
At least the first one did. As the prints got closer to the house, they became gradually
She's speaking some type of other language.
elongated. That's not how you pronounce that. First 12 inches, then 13, 14, a foot and a half, and finally 2 feet long. The last 2 prints in front of the door were the width of my torso and as long as I am tall.
No. Day 7. I'm typing this on my laptop in bed. My wife has been calling me softly and apparently. There's no damn R in that. Monetism. Patiently from the living room. Her voice is coming from the ceiling. No. I'm too afraid to go out there. Tell me, Father, what happens after the 7th day? It's gone. It ended. It ended after tell me, Father, what happened after the 7th day.
Are we gonna rate these or?
0. I'm kidding.
I say that was like
Scary, 4 out of 5.
it's like I'll say a 3 out of 5 for scary, and for entertainment like a 2.5.
Oh, whoa!
Like it was okay, but it wasn't
I got
like
a 3. Gross. So, let me find a new one.
It's gonna take 500 years to find a new one.
Yeah. There's this one, the ice cream man, and their first question was, "Why is there a boy named Nancy?"
Well,
Eyeless Jack. We gotta do that one.
what?
His name's Eyeless Jack.
Apparently, we're obsessed with eyes on this evening.
On this evening when it's 9:29. Okay, 9:30. If you so.
I hate people who do that. Like if it's 9:29, it's literally 9:30. You don't have
This is what happened when we tried to look up creepypasta.
Wait, it won't focus.
So while we're waiting 1,000 years, we were thinking. Oh, love that. We were thinking for our next one. I don't know, John. What are we gonna do for our next video?
You just call him John.
Yeah. Just tell him what we're gonna do for our next video. Don't argue with me. You're John.
Do I look like a John?
Yes. You should do paranormal.
Okay.
We're on the paranormal category.
You sound like you have missing teeth.
Okay, I'm back on the creepypasta web, my site.
Hated that.
Waiting 1,000 years for this.
Or you can just find another
Creepypasta.
story.
Keepypasta.
Keepy?
Keepy. Scariest thing to me.
My face.
Same. It just.
How is this liquid not going right through me?
Oh, this seems fun. Is this the whole story? Jesus.
Jesus.
I didn't want to, like... This is long.
Get your ass in frame.
Get your ass! This is a long one. It just stood there.
Okay, me.
Okay, start us off with today.
Today's story is called It Just Stood There.
My weight.
But if you don't get your ass in frames.
Yes.
I lay there on my bed, letting my mind fall victim to a plague of sickening thoughts of the past month. Why did this have to happen to me? No. Why did it have to happen to Jordan? He never did anything to deserve being pulled into such a
Are you good?
He never did anything to deserve being pulled into such a mess. I've got nothing going for me. So why not me? Why Jordan? My mom would probably be gone for the rest of the day, so I had the house to myself as I let these thoughts occupy my mind.
I've never really been the kind of person to hang out with a lot of people, but then again, I'd never had many friends to begin with. Out of the small list of friends I did have, Jordan was the only one I trusted and was closest to.
Rude. We're trying to do a video here.
We didn't have much in common. I came from a dysfunctional family, whereas he came from a well-doing and caring family. My parents were divorced and rather neglectful.
Oh.
Neglectful towards me. My dad hated me. Despite hardly being around to see me, my parents were always fighting with each other. While Jordan's parents were loving and almost polar opposite of mine, Jordan even had better luck in the social life than I did. He was well known at school and always showed kindness towards others. Kindness? He was 4.0 student at the top of our class. I was the kid who left out the back of the crowd, remaining unnoticed by the others. As different as we are, Jordan and I were always there for each other. We were practically as close as brothers.
My story starts on a regular afternoon, hanging out with Jordan around town and walking to the park. We like to talk about girls, me, video games, sports, and we often threw out an odd joke or two. Time flew by pretty fast, and Jordan realized it was getting late.
Did you hear that?
I checked my watch to see that it was nearly 9 in the evening.
Oh! I asked if you heard that.
I was in the middle of reading. Jordan was worried that his parents would be concerned about the time. My mom wouldn't even notice I was gone. Me, same. That is, if she was even home.
Same.
We started back to Jordan's house, and he told me I could spend the night since it was pretty late already. He said his parents probably wouldn't mind. We could feel the cold wind hitting us in the face. So we
like
zipped
that?
up our jackets and jammed our hands into our pockets and walked on.
Short complications. We saw something spooky.
Of course we did. Why wouldn't we?
Again. Okay. We're back.
I'm gonna die tonight.
Jordan's street was nearly a block or two away by now. He suddenly stopped walking and turned to face the dark alleyway to our left. He stood there frozen, standing blankly to the darkness in front of him. I glanced down the alley but saw nothing. He had once tried to scare me by doing something similar. But this time there was something strange about him. Yeah, nice try, Jordan. It ain't gonna work this time. Yeah, Dick. He didn't budge. I started to feel worried. Jesus. I can't believe. I started to feel worried and looked around to see if anyone was following us. Jordan, you alright? I asked, still no response. He stood up. Okay, he stood there in paralyzed position. His view was fixated on something, as if some entity in the darkness was standing.
Fixated. Fixated?
What?
Nothing.
Fixated on something. Fixated. Is that what I said? Jordan, stop it, man. This isn't funny anymore. I said, no reply. I gave him a solid smack to the face. Mood. Came around, which gave me the biggest sigh of relief. I thought there was something wrong. Don't scare me like that again, I said. He looked at me with confusion. Scared like what? He questioned. You stood there staring blankly into space like you had gone mental, I said. Ew, my one eye looked real black.
I must have zoned out, but whatever. Let's get moving, or we'll be even later, he replied. Then remained silent for the rest of the walk. I couldn't help but look behind me every few minutes, seeing if we were being watched or followed by whatever he might have seen in the alleyway.
Oh! What does that bug on me?
What is it?
Is it off?
I don't see it anymore.
Oh my god!
Isn't that supposed to be like a a bad sign when like, because it was like a weird looking spider.
Yeah.
First, okay, hold on. Let me recap real quick before we continue with the story.
Just comes back to
Okay,
life.
first Joshua saw something like a white figure outside, and then there was a spider just crawling. Like
He was on me, and it was
so
weird.
creepy.
I hate my life right now. Let's get now.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But we're actually gonna die. You're gonna see us get murdered on camera. Either by a real person or something paranormal. I don't know.
We moved onwards until reaching this house. His mother and his dog, Axel, greeted us. See, that was a car.
Obviously.
Not what I saw. Not what Lysol. I'm happy to die.
To die?
To die.
You're happy today or you're happy to die?
I'm happy to die.
Me.
Greeted us at the door when got inside. When got inside. It's what it says. When got inside.
When
got inside.
Well, I meant when
got inside. Both of his parents questioned him on his lateness. We lost track of time, but we're all right. Jordan explained. I headed up to his bedroom while he asked his parents if I could stay the night. As I waited alone, my mind started to flood with questions about what happened earlier. Jordan came up the stairs a few moments later, carrying an inflatable mattress and some blankets for me to sleep on. It was about 10 p.m. and we both got into our beds and fell asleep. I think it was on this pillow, but either way, it was scary.
We woke up the next morning at 7:30, half an hour before school started. We rushed to get ready, skipping showers and breakfast, and ran out the door. On our way to school, I noticed something different about Jordan just by looking at him.
Oh boy.
He seemed quieter than usual and slightly bewildered. "What's up, Jordan? You look like you're about to burst out and cry like a little girl," I jokingly prodded.
It's rude.
Normally he would laugh at something like this, but there wasn't the slightest change in his expression. I hate that creepy music coming from the TV. He solemnly said, "Nothing's the matter. I would like to walk in peace for once without having to listen to you." Oh!
That was so rude.
Tea.
That is my Coke.
Do I look? You literally drank half my coffee. His gaze remained in front of him. He made no effort to make eye contact with me. He had never snapped at me like that before. Not to me, not to anyone.
Well, there's a first for everything, bitch.
I tried not to dwell on it too much, but I knew something had changed in him, and something definitely was wrong.
This one's scary. Once we had gotten to school, it was 9:12 a.m., so we went to the reception area to get a late pass. Why'd you get to school at 9:12 if you were up?
Up at 7:30.
Yeah, half an hour up. Yeah, love that.
Half an hour up.
We would usually make something up if we were ever late. Alarm clock broke, or maybe we missed our call or caught the wrong bus. But this time we just took our late slips. Without giving an excuse, we got to class, turned the late slips over to the teacher, and took our seats. Everything was going fine so far. I turned and noticed Jordan staring blankly into space again, just like last night. He turned towards me with that damned blank expression on his face again. I tried to break his stare by waving my hand in front of him, but he didn't move an inch. My God. I moved back and forth. He moved with me, not letting his eyes break contact with mine. When it happened, his cold, indifferent expression turned into a menacing, sadistic grin.
Hate that.
No. What? Miley Cyrus. Who? He was starring. Yeah, love that. He was staring directly into my mind, filling me with an extreme feeling of fear and panic. The room faded away. The students, teacher, desks, windows, the goddamn flickering... There's a lot of cursing. Fluorescent light at the front of the class.
What is going on this very night? We just heard an ambulance. Someone died.
What if it was that guy that was in our yard?
How do you know it was a guy?
I don't know.
Someone just got murdered. I'm kidding. That's not funny, but something happened. Back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Right. They faded into darkness, and all that was left was Jordan, his eyes boring straight into my very being. I felt numb all over and began to sweat. It was a cold, nervous sweat, and I began to shake as adrenaline rushed through my body. Then I realized that was wrong. This wasn't Jordan I was looking at. This thing, whatever it was wearing Jordan as clothing. I was waiting for the flesh of his face to tear open along the seams, for his body to burst open under the sheer pressure of what was living inside.
This shit is fucked up. A dull hum began to drone in my ear, becoming louder and sharper until it became a well-defined, repetitive ring. Something moved in the darkness, and walls began to emerge from a dense fog and close in on us. The movement in the distance became our classmates, rustling through their backpacks and beginning to stand up. I recognized the ringing as the sound of the school bell. Jordan, or whatever this thing was, snapped back to the center of his seat and faced the front of the class, wearing a calm expression on his face. I tried to look around, but my body was still tense and paralyzed by fear. Didn't anyone else notice what just happened? Jordan stood up and walked out of my vision, leaving me staring at the window behind where he was sitting. "Hey man, what's the matter? Class is over. Let's go eat lunch," he said from behind me.
Not with your ass.
Not today, Satan.
Literally.
He's literally possessed by Satan.
Yeah. I don't know how long I sat there staring at the window. Watching blurred objects move outside, the shock slowly... Watching blurred objects move outside. Is that not a great description of what's been happening to this guy? The shock slowly
Dissipated?
Yeah, and I looked down at my hands. They were shaking and my palms were cold and sweaty. I stood up slowly. God, still feeling lightheaded. I took a moment to look around the classroom. It was empty. The classroom had already wiped the board and left. I walked out of the room and looked both ways down the hallway. Jordan was nowhere in sight. I began to grow anxious as I walked along the corridor. Who or what was the being that possessed my best friend? I refused to accept that Jordan was consciously choosing to act like this. One moment he's the person I've known for years, and the next I find myself fixed on the cold, uncaring eyes of another being. Nothing I said in those 3 words were correct. It made me sick just thinking about it.
God damn, it's a long ass paragraph.
Yeah, and I had to read
And what about it?
Yeah, that's why I went there thinking.
I walked out of the main building and felt the warm sun on my face. A cool, refreshing breeze passed by, and I took a moment before continuing to the lunch area. I sat down at a bench, trying to forget about earlier, and wondered where Jordan was. He came out of the office building carrying a lunchbox. He sat down opposite me. My mom came by to drop off a lunchbox. "Let's see what we got here," he said as he opened the box. He pulled out 2 Subway sandwiches and 2 cans of Sprite.
Oh, I love Subway. And Sprite.
"Here's yours, man." He handed me my sandwich and soda. "Everything all right? You look a bit pale." I opened the pop can and took a long drink, which alleviated the uneasiness in my stomach. I opened the paper wrapping around the sandwich and took a bite. A mass of lettuce, grated carrots, and a meatball held together by a blob of melted Swiss cheese fell out of the side of the sandwich. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's a meatball sub from Subway. I want a sub.
It landed on the paper wrapping on the
Subway.
table and thankfully not in my lap. Jordan burst into laughter, pointing at my face. I had smeared a good amount of mayonnaise across my upper lip and chin, attempting to save the contents of the sandwich.
I hate mayonnaise, yo.
Yeah, they're gross. I took a napkin from in the lunchbox and wiped my face. Seeing him laugh made me feel that the worst had passed and things were taking a turn for the better. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna make sure it's on the right channel because I'm probably gonna have to pause it. Because we're probably gonna be reading for a little bit longer. You can keep reading.
Okay, so she went to check on something, so I'm going to read my part until she gets back. We finished our lunch and tossed the paper wrappers in tin cans and rubbish bin. As we turned to walk out the lunch area, Christian, one of our classmates, stood up from a bench near us and lost his balance. One foot remained in contact with the ground as he spun around, arms outstretched, attempting to grab on to whatever he could. Used to stabilize himself. He latched onto the oh my god, I cannot read! Onto the sleeve of Jordan's pocket. Yep. Done. Done reading. I just said sleeve of his pocket when I meant jacket. Who says that?
Move your hand unless you want my ass on your hand.
Nero,
do we look? Get going.
we're already on edge and I can't fucking read. Pulling them both down to the ground. While Christian struggled to gain his bearings, bearings, I don't fucking care, reached down to give Jordan a hand. He stood up on his own and brushed off his pants, leaving me with an empty, outstretched hand. He started walking away from where he stood, not saying a word. I felt unnerved by his silence. Oh God, it's happening again, I thought. I'll be just a moment, dude, he said as he turned around to look towards me before entering the restroom. I sat back down on the bench and waited for him. Looking over to my right, I saw that Christian had managed to make it back on his feet. He headed off towards the seniors' common room. I snickered to myself at the thought of getting in there. What a joke. Me, the unpopular... me and the unpopular kid being let into a common room. You were like real close to my face. It scared me for a minute.
A few minutes passed by and Jordan still hadn't returned. I stood up and headed towards the restroom to check on him. I thought of calling out his name, but figured it would be awkward with others standing around. No one was at the urinal. Love English. I'm not a guy. Leave me alone. No one was at the urinals, so I checked the stalls. They were all empty. Jordan must have slipped out when I wasn't looking, but why hadn't he come back to the tables? I walked back outside and looked around, finding only a group of preppy students chatting with each other, but no Jordan. I felt nervous as I wondered where he might have gone and what he could be doing. I heard a scream from the hallway to the right, and Jordan's girlfriend came running out crying with two of her friends following her. I ran down the hallway and saw the doors to the common room closing shut. This wasn't good.
No. I opened the doors and I was stunned by what I saw. Christian was lying on the floor, knocked unconscious with a small pool of blood forming around his head. Jordan knelt above him, relentlessly driving his fist into the side of his classmate's head. I looked up from unconscious body being senselessly beaten. I can't. And every muscle in my body froze. Instead of seeing a furious look on his face, I instead witnessed the familiar malevolent grin, accompanied by a gleeful laugh. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. I turned around and reached for the door, wanted no more of this. My hand missed and I fell to the ground, my vision blurring around me. Why don't this all just go away? This was just my last conscious thought before I blacked out completely.
I woke up on a bed in the infirmary. The nurse must have heard me moving and came over to check on me. After making sure that I was alright, she said I was better off than the other boy. The other boy? I thought. Oh, that's right. It was Christian. What happened slowly came back to me. I asked what happened to him. The nurse said that the fight was broken up by a teacher and an ambulance was called to take Christian to the hospital. After the nurse checked me out of the office, I looked at the clock on the wall and saw that it had been an hour since school was released. I walked home, this time by myself.
11 were great. A long time ago. It had been 3 weeks since that incident. Jordan returned from his suspension a week ago, and things seemed to have returned back to normal. Apart from the occasional rumor about the fight, I went over to Jordan's house on Sunday. Why? I mentioned that Christian was due back from the next day, but we didn't talk about the fight between the two of them. When I arrived at school that Monday, I saw Christian getting dropped off by his dad. He still had a lot of bruising and was wearing a neck brace and a few small bandages. Jordan didn't show up, though. Most likely wanted to avoid Christian on his first day back.
I need to pause it when it comes on. Just entertain them.
Entertain them? Hola, mi cuello estás? I don't know how to speak Spanish.
The bell rang and sounded the start of the first period. Students started to head towards their respective classrooms. I was on my way to English when I noticed a group of people forming around a section of lockers. There were a few faculty members trying to keep students at a distance from whatever happened. Another fight, I thought. No. I hadn't heard anything going on before, though. I got closer to the crowd, but couldn't make out what was going on.
So, if you see creepy white things running through your... That was so racist. Creepy white things. I'm not even making this up either. Like, it went past twice. Let's just move on. I turned around the opposite direction. I saw Christian sitting on a bench with a teacher kneeling in front of him, holding it by his shoulders. He had catatonic look on his face, and I heard the teacher speaking softly in a calm voice to him. I turned back and tried bending down to see if I could get a glimpse of what happened. but the area was too cluttered with people. I got a classmate's attention from the crowd, and I asked him what happened. Someone broke into Christian's locker and did some real fucked up shit. 2 cursies.
Wonder who that could be.
Yeah. He responded, I pulled him out of the crowd and looked him in the face. Tell me exactly what happened. I don't know, man. I only saw it for a moment. Alright, someone shoved a bunch of bloody animal parts and shit in his locker. Shit, man, it's fucked up. He said as he
Frantically
stumbled out of the crowd and away to the classroom.
Think of how this all sounds. Your best friend begins acting possessed, then has a psychotic breakdown and bludgeons a classmate's face to a bloody mess. He ends up absent on the day that they find a pile of bloody, dissected animals bits in the locker of said classmate.
Zed.
I took off out of the school gates without hesitation, going straight for Jordan's house.
Why?
I ignored the burning in my legs as I ran, thinking only of what had happened. I had no clear idea as to why I was going to Jordan's, but something clicked in my mind, and I immediately felt that he had something to do with the gory mess in the locker.
You're gonna end up being that next gory mess in somebody's locker if you don't stop being stupid. I was getting close. I ran up to the dirt path from the road towards the house. Yep, the front door was left wide open. Anxiety struck me like a brick wall as I walked closer, becoming increasingly distressed. I took a step through the doorway and was heard with a splash under my foot. It was landed on the wood floor. I looked down to see what had plunged my foot into a puddle of blood. My tongue caught in the back of my throat and my heart pounded faster. The puddle led across the floor into the kitchen. Part of me wanted to run away that very instant, but I continued to walk slowly towards the kitchen, following the dark red path. The cutlery drawer was pulled out and handle, and knives were streaked with blood. I grabbed a knife, fearing that a monster might be lurking in the house. The path of blood led out of the kitchen through another door into the hallway. As I followed into the base of the staircase, I stretched in the house become more apparent. I held the knife in front of me with both hands, turning around to see if anyone was there. The house was silent, and I stood there for about a minute. As I turned back to face the staircase, there was a loud thud at my feet, and something warm splattered against my face. There at my feet was a decapitated, skinned animal carcass. Oh!
I hate that.
About the size of a dog. It was still wet with blood. I heaved, but nothing came out.
I don't like this. I hate thinking about dead animals. But damn, this next paragraph is like 5 paragraphs in one. I saw movement at the top of the stairs and quickly looked up. A figure stood there, silhouetted by the glare from the window behind it. It was like nothing I've seen before. It had pointy ears sticking out of the top of its head, and its long arms extended down to its feet. It just stood there, watching me.
No!
Fuck no. I couldn't manage to take my gaze off of it, nor could I move.
Did you say my gaze? Like G-A-Y-S?
Just my gaze. I was paralyzed and began to lose sense of time. I don't know how long I stood there staring at it. Eventually, my eyes adjusted to the brightness from the window. I could start to make out distinct features of this thing that stood before me. Its arms had more joints than a regular human's and appeared to limply dangle there as if the creature made no effort to use them.
I'm scared.
It had the muzzle of a dog, and its upper part was covered in animal fur. I was still clueless as to what it was. My eyes soon became completely adjusted to the lighting, and I gradually became filled with horror.
Yeah.
This wasn't some sort of otherworldly beast. No, it was assembled in this world. I could see the seams of torn flesh where one arm met with another, the clear difference in skin tone. I had no interest in wondering where the additional limbs came from. The furry hide of a canine was draped over the front of this thing's bare, human chest. Blood dripped down from it until it reached a pair of dark red stained jeans. I recognized the face of what was once the dog named Axel, now positioned over this thing's face as some sort of mask.
This is Jordan's
really just like
fucked up ass.
Not today, Satan.
I knew who it was, but there was no way I would ever accept it. I couldn't. I began to panic, and there must have been. Oh my God! There must have also been noticed by the beast. It started to make a growling sound at me and arched its back, preparing to pounce on its prey. I was that prey. I broke eye contact with broke eye contact with it and realized I was still gripping the knife that I took from the kitchen. The beast leaped from the top of the stairs and I raised my arms. There was a gashing sound that I was knocked back on the ground. The weight of the monster was bearing down on me. The mask made out of Axel's head became detached from the wearer's face, and I could see clearly now that it was Jordan. I felt a warm liquid run over my hands. His body slowly became relaxed and made no effort. And made no effort to fight back. I looked down to see the knife penetrating Jordan's gut. I looked back at his face, and it was Jordan looking at me this time, not the monster that had possessed him. Before he smiled at me. Not a sadistic grin, but a calm smile of relief. That was a sad part, and I fucking messed it up. Turn back around. His eyes slowly closed, and he lay his head on my chest, becoming completely motionless. The blood was still rushing over my hands. I didn't know what was going on anymore, but I couldn't stand the pressure. I pushed the body off me, leaving the knife where it had entered his abdomen. I walked over the house in a state of pure shock. It was as if all that happened suddenly vanished from my mind. And my only intentive was to begin walking to my house. Issachar!
I got home and took off my blood-soaked clothes, then hopped in the shower. I watched Jordan's blood wash off of my body and flow down into the drain. After I got out of the shower, I put on a clean pair of clothes and threw my bloody ones into the trash can. I walked out of the bathroom and down the hallway towards the room, turning the message machine on by habit as I passed by it. I froze in the doorway of my room when Jordan's voice began to play on the machine.
See? What is... fall? No.
Hey, I know you just left, but I'm glad you came over to visit. I'll be by your place tomorrow, maybe around 5 in the afternoon. The machine beeped, and the automated voice announced that the message was sent around 8 p.m. last night. I must have been on my way back home from Jordan's house when he called. I glanced over at the clock. It was 4:58 p.m., 2 minutes away from when he said he'd be by. I sat back on my bed, blocking the violent memories of what had happened, retaining only the thought that Jordan wouldn't be coming back. I wanted to cry, but I didn't have the energy to. That's a mood. I stared at the clock on the wall, watching the second hand tick closer to the next minute. I began to immerse myself in thoughts of hanging out with Jordan. We were at the park, laughing at something, maybe a stupid joke that one of us told. As the minute hand reached closer to the hour, the dream world where Jordan was still alive faded away as I drifted back to this sad and lonely reality.
Here I am now at the end of my story. I lay here alone in my house, my best friend wiped from my life. What now? Who will I hang out with over the weekends? I have no one that I can trust to tell my secrets to anyone. No one to care enough to listen to what I have to say. I close my eyes and roll over, hoping that when I wake, this will all have just been a nightmare. There's suddenly a loud, powerful slam from the front door. The sound recent down to the hallway, through the walls of the house. This was followed by a slow scratching sound along the wall, getting closer and closer to my bedroom door. And it ends.
That was a really good story. Way too long, but really good. 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5 scary.
Yeah.
Both. Everything.
Okay, this video is already almost an hour long, literally, so we're gonna try to wrap this up really quick. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Put down below suggestions for us to do for more Halloween videos. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media. Make sure to subscribe, turn on our post
post notifications.
Turn on our post notifications, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye. Do I look? Okay. Wait.
I always look bald in these because it never shows my hair.
Yep, love that. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1.